What's up, guys? Frogger back at it again. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to get your roads down. So the plan I have is I'm going to start, I'll explain a little bit getting into it, and then basically it'll be a time lapse of me working on the roads, and I'll cut in and out at certain sections, right? If I start doing like, an intersection and showing you guys how the height map adjustment works, or just showing you different terrain or road types, right? I'll uh I'll slow it back down, I'll jump in and I'll give you guys a little breakdown of what I'm doing. But other than that, this is mostly just going to be kind of you seeing the process the entire process of me laying out the roads. And this is a very kind of wild terrain. There's not a lot of existing infrastructure. So with that being said, first off, I'm going to have to kind of create some of my own roads, and I'll probably use, you can see there's maybe a stream or something right here. So I'll probably run parallel to that stream to use that as kind of a guide. But, you'll see what the process is like. This is a pretty subjective process in terms of how I'm creating some of my roads or where I'm placing some of my roads. But the technical details should be relatively objective, and you should be able to get a good idea of what this process looks like. And with all that being said, I will say the first thing you should do in your map, once you get your satellite map and your height map down, is build out the road infrastructure. That is going to dictate where everything on your map lays. It's going to dictate the flow of your map. It is going to be kind of what everything is presupposed upon. So let's just jump right into this. All right, first thing we're going to do, we're going to open up our vector tool. Make sure snap to terrain is set on. Most of our roads, really all of our roads, are going to be on splines, okay? Like I said in the previous video, as soon as you've got this down, you're going to want to put the road on your actual polyline or your spline, because you want to see what's actually happening. So that's going to be under Arma Reforger, prefabs, WE generators, roads. And for these main roads, I'll be going with the asphalt dashed line. Okay, so if you can see, there's this main circuit right here. All of this is going to be in the dashed line, right? The 2-lane. And this is going to dictate what it looks like on your paper map that you end up making, right? So different road types have different kind of keys, I guess, or legend on the legend of your map. They'll have the different line widths, all of that. So just off the bat, let's make sure we're keeping things tight to the actual road. That's going to involve grabbing our tails, shortening them to make the turns tighter, lengthening them to make the turns wider. And we're literally just going to start laying down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just going to start laying this road down. Like I said in the first video, you're going to want to put these curves, or you're going to want to put the midpoint kind of right where the curve starts, and then work the tail, just adjust the tail. So you can see I'm just doing my best to kind of overlay this road, cover this road. I want this asphalt to completely encompass the section that the road is on. So I'm going to shut the mic off, and we are going to just run down this. I'm going to actually cut the video real quick just so I can put some music on, and obviously you guys won't be able to hear that because it'll get copyright striked, and then I won't even be able to upload the video. So I'm going to throw some music on. I'm going to crank out a large section of the road. I'm going to do one large circuit, and then we'll get into some intersections. All right, so I want to show you guys right here. So we're starting kind of a first intersection, and you guys can see how quickly, right, the road structure moves down. So don't concern yourself at all with road layout time because it's very easy. You can see right here, I would want this road to fall under this road, right? So you need to come in, open up your spline shape entity, open up your dashed line, your road dashed line, like that entity, then open up the road entity itself. You'll come down here, road sort. Maybe it's mat sort. No. Hold on. I think what I need to do actually, I need to go to the original one. And you can see, I don't know everything off the top of my head, but you can figure it out, right? That's it. So now it's going underneath this road. And does it look perfect still? No, of course not. But I think it looks better than it did previously. I'm just coming in here close, slowing down my camera, getting as, close to the ground as I can, like staying parallel with it, just to make sure that we don't have any major bumps or anything here. And we don't. So that will occur, and I'll have to show you guys how the height map adjustments work, how the height map priority works. But for now, we're okay. And we're going to build out this long section right here. And we'll likely take this all the way out to here. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so I'm sure you guys just saw the crash. So that's why you want to save really, really frequently on here. I was suggesting the road sort, and that's what happened. So I do need to come in and adjust the height map priority. As you can see, it's really, you can't tell from this angle. So that's why I always recommend, or like, up here, always recommend getting here level with the road. So there's a dip here, and there's a dip here. Okay, so we need to adjust the height map priority on the intersecting road. We'll drop this 1, and now you can see this road is still fine. This road has a slight bump, but we can easily remedy this by either adjusting down here. You'll come into vector tool, uncheck. For some reason mine's saved unchecked, but you'll uncheck this and you will just move it down a little bit and get really uptight, right? Once again, just get right here, and you're just confirming that you're not creating a major bump. And I'm sure there's better ways to do this technically, but for like one intersection right here, this is fine. If there's a minor kind of collision with vehicles, like that's normal. Like you got to think, like in real life, you can't make a turn onto another road full speed and not expect there to be any variance in elevation or variance in kind of, friction, anything. There's a lot of variables in the real world that, it's fine to have some shift in elevation from road to road. Not so much to where it is bottoming out, you know, your vehicle, but you can have some some variation. It doesn't have to be completely perfect. The real world isn't perfect, right? So just remember that when you're making your map. Don't get so caught up all the time on making it completely perfect and one to one. Because like I said in my first video, which if you haven't seen, go watch that now. And also, throw a sub at your boy. Why not? Throw a subscriber and a like and a comment and like all those good YouTube things at your boy, because those do help. But yeah, don't worry about getting things perfect. And once again, when you are doing your road placement, always make sure snap to terrain is checked. You don't want to be just placing the stuff willy-nilly. It'll throw it 200 meters down, 200 meters up, all the way across the map. Um, and if you can see that, there are these weird little bumps on the side of the road, we'll fix those later. Don't worry about those now. When you're just getting the layout, put down, do not stress about that stuff, because you'll be coming through later and looking at, reworking things anyways. So you can kind of focus on that at the end. So I'm going to cut this again, and I've shown you guys kind of how this height map adjustment actually works in practice. And I'll be finishing up these last two sections of road, because that's all we've got. And then we're going to move into some like secondary kind of road activities. But you can see this is extremely fast. This has taken me, I haven't exactly kept track, but in terms of actual work being done, less than 25 minutes of work to get this, miles of road placed. So let's get into it again. All right, and the main circuit's done. So that took less than 45 minutes, including me recording and, starting, stopping, doing all that for miles and miles of road, of main highway. And when we get into this next part, it's important to mention that you need to be thinking, you need to have a lot of foresight when you're doing work like this, when you're getting the road layout down. Because for this map that I'm working on right now, the way I have it in my mind is it's going to be a full AAS map, and it's going to be kind of unconventional in terms of main base layout. I'd like to see one main base here and one here, and kind of a no man's land in this section, so that you have to wrap all the way around, right? They start off close together, obviously, as the crow flies, but clearly you're not going to be able to fight right here. That would eliminate the entire purpose of this. So with that being said, I don't want to build roads from here throughout here, right? Because I don't want any fighting to occur here. And also in an area like this, I don't have a lot of road infrastructure to work off of. So I'm going to be using these areas where it looks like there are trails, right? So right here, like I said, I don't want anything to be in this section, right? But we can come through here. We can work on these outer areas, right? You can see where there's potentially some infrastructure here. And it may be that it is a stream in real life. I checked on Google Earth, and I would recommend anybody, confirm these things on Google Earth. But from what I could tell, there was some road infrastructure here. So I'll use this section for some secondary narrow asphalt roads. And I typically don't use a lot of dirt roads on my maps. I will be using them on like these inner sections, right? Because this is a prairie map. But typically for a secondary road, I'll just go with this asphalt narrow. I like the look of it. I think it works well. And for these outer, outside of kind of the center of this map, I'm going to be using primarily this asphalt narrow. And for the interior, because of the kind of aesthetic I'm going for on this map, I'll be using the dirt roads on the inside. And another thing is, the way I anticipate this map to play out is it's going to be, a lot of driving this main circuit. There's going to be a lot of ambushes set up, I'm sure. And obviously you're going to rely on a lot on heli transport, but with the, once again, the terrain's going to play into, it's going to be hard to hide a heli, right? When you come out of Maine, if you try and fly directly through here, it's not going to be, a breezy flight. You're going to be getting targeted the whole way down because there's no cover on this map. And do I think everyone's going to love that? Of course not, right? But I'm not making a map that every single Arma player loves. I'm making a map that has an experience that I would like to be played out, right? And I'm at least thinking about some players, right? I'm not thinking about, nobody can make everybody happy, right? Some people like flat Ukrainian maps. Some people like mountainous, they love Kunar. Some people love my map, right? Which is kind of a mix of a lot of things, but it is not like a Ukraine map. My map is not like Anazay. It's not like Zarichne. It is its own thing, right? And you're gonna have to come to terms with that. But you do, with all that being said, you need to have some goal in mind with the flow of your map. And I say all this, it could change, right? I could end up having mobs here and completely changing the structure, and I could be working through the prairie. But as of now, that's not what I've got planned. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to start working on these dirt roads, and we'll get into that. right, so you guys have seen me now place down some of these secondary roads. You know, we've got the narrow asphalt over here. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, that looks like a stream, that doesn't look like a road. This one is a road, and if I have covered up any streams, really what I'll do is I'll just build the stream parallel to the road, right? It'll be a nice scenic route. It's not something that can't be fixed down the line. And building off once again my previous video, nobody knows what this area looks like one to one exactly. So if you take your own liberties here and there, nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna be the wiser. And I feel like I've given you guys enough material, right, in terms of just kind of time spent putting these roads down to where you should be able to watch this and get a good understanding of like what road placement looks like, what to look out for, and just the workflow. Once again, I would recommend this should be the first thing you do after you put down your height and satellite map. And you can always delete roads. You can always add roads later. Don't let any of these steps, stress you out to the point where you're shutting down, to where you're freezing, because all of this can be changed down the line. You guys wouldn't believe how many revamps and reimplementations I've had on the Appalachian map. Those road systems have changed multiple times. Lots of things have been completely deleted and reinserted. It's never the end of the world. Could it be that you have a lot more time ahead of you? Yeah, of course, right? You could definitely cost yourself some time, but you're never going to cost yourself the map unless you truly give up on it. So, end of the day, all of this stuff is reworkable, right? None of it's set in stone. You can see right here, right? I've got this weird little ish here. Just gonna delete this dude and drag this up to here. That's it. And did it affect this right here? Yeah. So I'm gonna have to come in, grab this, grab the vector tool. We're already not set to snap, and it's fixed. It's stuff like this. Once you get the feel for it and you've put the time in, you're gonna understand what you're doing, better than I can explain it. And that's kind of why there's not a ton of explanation for these little individual pieces. Like, how do I move the tail? What am I doing on each time I'm adding a point to this spline or polyline? You just have to get a feel for that, man. And you will. All right. If you enjoy doing this and you continue working on it and just getting better and better, it's second nature. And you saw it's just a bunch of little tweaks, and nothing's set in stone. Nothing is permanent in a sense. So just work through it, work through the struggles, work through your problems, and eventually you will have your road terrain down. And I think this should keep you guys busy for a little bit. I'm going to start working on my next video will be streams, right? I'm going to work on the streams. We'll stay on this vector tool for a minute, and then we can jump into maybe some terrain painting, large scale terrain painting, and prefab placement. And on this map, I'll be able to give you guys kind of a little tutorial on custom base design, because obviously, if you could tell, there aren't many places that actually have structures. So I'm going to have to make that up myself. And hey, I look forward to it. But if you've enjoyed this, if you've enjoyed my other videos, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, especially, drop a comment, join the Discord, add me on Discord, Reforger. I'm here, I'm available. Let's get these maps made, guys. And girls and everybody. Yeah, let's increase the availability.